All right. Greetings, everyone. We want to be respectful of your time. We recognize that it is an evening and afternoon, and it's a regular school day. So we are back for our third and our final session for Computer Science Innovative Leaders Institute for the school counselors. So, of course, I am Dr. Christine Lewis, and
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Bernice Jones.
we are your consultants for this particular evening. So we are going to go ahead and get started, and this is our last one, November 19th. So we hope you get something and that you can use in your own practice.
So today's session, we're the Tennessee legislation, pretty much what we did on.
Bernice, I think you're breaking up. You're freezing. Is she freezing for everybody else? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to recap on that Tennessee legislation. We're going to talk about computer science. We're going to define it, the landscape, the strategic goal. We're going to review the empathize, but it also was a working opportunity for you to work through and talk about it if you've been able to do it or ask questions. Design thinking. We're going to finish it out with a prototype and test today. We're going to give an example, and then we're going to take questions and comments. And then we're going to talk about the next steps, which will be to consult, communicate, and collaborate with each other. And then we're going to thank you.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
It's okay. You're
My
back.
computer just went black.
All right, there you go.
Okay. So this is the whole point of us really coming together, because this is the legislation that we talked about with the public chapter 979 of computer science, and how it had the unanimous vote that they were going to integrate computer science for every student. And so this is just the actual legislation overview from the Tennessee Department of Education. And it's just basically saying that we're not getting ready to, we're in the process of prepping students, all students K through 12, on getting them fully prepared on having technological jobs and computerized jobs and different things like that. And so this is just an overview of what that was to look like. And then it actually implemented this particular school year. And that's what this is all about, the chapters 979. So just making sure that we are preparing and fully providing documents and resources for our students to be prepared for anything within the computer science background.
All right. Tennessee's STEM landscape. So right now we're looking at integrating it and also connecting it to that career exploration and advising, which comes into us as school counselors. Because we do have a knack for helping students and supporting them in that career exploration and also advising them of next steps. And so we're just connecting that full circle to expand and expose our students to the computer science realm, especially for those students that are from marginalized communities that don't believe that STEM or computer science is for them because of the different subjects that they automatically tie those STEM and computer science courses to. So in that strategic goal, we want to connect our students, which increase their interest and participation and achievement in STEM. But we want to also look at the educational leaders to expand student access to effective STEM teachers and leaders. So that support, the educational leaders will support you in the school to provide that access for students, which leads to industry. So we can reduce the state STEM talent and skills gap because there is a gap for what we need across the state and in the industry area. But also we want to build community awareness and support for STEM and also get them involved in our students so that our students have access and recognize that a lot of these things are in their own communities. You just may not recognize that it is from STEM or from a computer science background.
All right, so this is going to be our share portion where we, in the last session, we talked about identifying your team for design thinking and who would be on that team. And we talked about how it would be like a lead, which would be a school counselor. You would have your administrator. You have possibly 2 educators, stakeholders, students, 3 to 5. And then we had some other people like community partners and different things like that, or anybody else within the building that you think would benefit to be on this team, because there is like no set type of person or whatever that person actually teaches, but whoever can benefit from being in the group and what they can bring to the table. And so with this one, we're going to do a share out, which would, number one is going to be the empathize, which is what we talked about, researching our student needs, and we talked about the needs assessments in the last session, and how we talked about how does that identify what the kids are looking for. And so those needs assessments lets us know that, hey, this is a need, this is what the students feel like that we need to be discussing, or this needs to be a topic. So when we talk about that, we talk about observe, engage, immerse, why, the capture, the collaborate, and the maintain empathy. So that's what the empathize portion is. We reach out to them with the needs assessment that we gave you guys from the last session. And so I think did we email it or we just put it in the chat? I don't remember what we did last time, but you guys got it. And so you could either edit the one that we sent you guys, or you could create your own. And so we just want to have a template of what that needs assessment looks like and what type of questions that they would be if you were to ask your students those things, so we can know what feedback we receive back and what needs to be done from that point. And so the next one is define, which is state the needs and the problems of your students, and that's going to come from the needs assessment that was given. And so from that, we just want to know what actual needs, what issues that arise that the kids are needing or wanting assistance with and help with, so that we'll know what we need to do as educators and what we're going to do to support them, because at the end of the day, they're doing the work. We're just kind of like monitoring and just really kind of like being a person that's over it, but they're actually doing the work. But we have to ask the necessary questions, the correct questions, and the correct things to get the things that we need replied back to us. And so the third one is ideate, which is going to be talking about challenging your assumptions and creating ideas. And remember, this is a team, because everybody is going to give different things into the group. So the lead counselor is going to look at it from a counselor perspective. So we're going to give out information that maybe a teacher or a stakeholder or a student wouldn't even think about. And so a student is also going to give us feedback, because they're the student. They're going to be the ones that's actually doing the work. So they're going to come from a peer perspective, and they're going to tell us things that we necessarily has not thought about, but it's going to be beneficial to the group itself, to the team. So that's why we want to create all type of ideas. Don't put yourself in a box. Just think of all type of ideas of what you think could be better and that you can bring to the table when we're talking about this. Because at the end of the day, it's about the student. So we want to make sure that everything we do is benefiting them and making sure that they have a voice in this whole thing. So we know that's why it's really so many of them. When we say 3 to 5, it actually can be a little bit more than that if needed. But depending on the student population in the body of the school, I think it could be a little bit larger than the 3 to 5. But we want more of them, because this is what the whole reason why we're here is, because of the students. And so we want to receive whatever feedback that they have discussed with us, and we're making sure that we get what they need as far as that. So this is the share out portion. I think Doc, you put something in the chat.
Put the link in the chat, but what we're particularly interested in is just understanding any roadblocks that you all are coming across as well. So if you haven't necessarily gotten your needs assessment or your research, we want to help facilitate those conversations, because we're here. We may not have gotten emails from you, but what is it that you need support with? What do you think you've encountered in navigating these 3 steps, or that you will encounter in navigating these 3 steps? And so it is a team, and just kind of like who we want to help you identify people that could potentially be on your team. So that's what we're going to do now, because we do want to have some working time so that we can support you in that. Okay. So I'm going to pull up the Padlet and should be able to see it. And so I know we only have Sharita, Tammy, and Elizabeth on. So when we talk about identifying a team, um, have you all had time to think about who would be on your team, which administrators, how many students? Um, if you don't mind, we would like for you to kind of just share with us who you've identified and how you narrowed that selection down.
Hey, I don't mind to share.
Okay.
I am going to apologize too. I got an epidural injection in my spine this morning. So I'm laying down as I join the Zoom. So that's part of the reason I have my camera off. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that because I just didn't want it to look rude or like I wasn't engaged. I have actually been struggling with this. Like, this is my third year as a counselor, and I was a classroom teacher beforehand. And so I would love your needs assessment. I had one that I had made that I need to adjust, and I don't know. I was looking for it a second ago to see if I could find where it was sent to me, and I didn't see it. That's probably on me. I was out of town last week. But I was gonna do an advisory council anyway with like ASCA, and I was trying to kind of blend the two things just because it's very similar on like assessing needs for the school and what getting feedback. But one of the things I've struggled with a little bit is I have a hard time getting parents that can all come in at the same time. Like, I've reached out to a few people, but all of my parents work for the most part. I have very few, like my main parents who are involved at the school work at the school. And that's not any fault to them. It's because they have to go to work and make money. But I'm just trying to figure out like if anyone's been successful, like if you can't meet with them directly, do you do like where they could zoom in, or you just do like a Google form, or you just have them do it in writing? Like, are there any ways that you guys have really liked if we can't get people? It's just hard to get everyone there at the same time. Like, I can say like Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and like one of my three parents can come. I can talk to the students, the admin, and the staff during the day. The parents are the ones that I really want, or the guardians I really want like involved. And so I wanted to see if you've had any success including parents in your thing, because when we go for STEM designation, we have to have like we're trying to get our designation this year. And one of the things we have to have is parental involvement in that process as well. So I just kind of wanted to ask what you guys have done to be successful, or if you had any suggestions.
Before I answer, Tammy or Sharita, do you have any suggestions or support of how your parents got involved?
Um, we were pretty lucky. We have good parental support. And we have some parents that are industry and community partners with us. We even have a parent who is part of our main team that works for Meta. So we haven't really had a big problem with that. Maybe more, ours was more not really trying to find someone, was figuring out who was best to ask, kind of narrowing that down.
Okay. Thank you. Sharita, did you have anything to add or take away? Okay. Well, Elizabeth, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say, you can do it how you need to do it, what fits best. We recognize it is a school environment, and I've done where it's Zooms, but I've also had to take some time and have some extra time where I call drop-ins, and where we have our agenda set and the main people are there for us, the agenda, and we have our minutes. And so what does that drop in look like where you can update and keep that parent abreast on what took place, especially if they're in your school already, because you're going to come across them if they're the easiest to access, and you know that they're going to be committed to that process and that there may be a potential for them to come in. I don't see an issue with you taking some detailed minutes and making sure you support your parents and updating them there, especially if they're parents and their teachers. But if they're in the school already, one of the things you can do is swap out is an external partner. And so is there somebody that's in industry that's on the outside of the school that can come in and kind of give you that, okay, I'm not understanding this, but to have you think outside of the box. Okay. So if you're going to use the parents in your school, I would seriously like consider who's going to be external. If your parent is not external part. Does that help or make some sense?
No, I like that idea a lot. And as you were talking, I was like, I could definitely record a meeting that happens during the school day, send it out and ask people to send me back anything they want to add on to, or offer it as a Zoom and not ask everyone else to attend again, but I can hop in and like be available for questions and stuff outside of school hours. So thank you. I like that idea a lot. That's one of the biggest things is the external voices. I know what our teachers think for the most part, and I know what with my position, I get to hear what the kids really think about things a lot of the time because they're pretty comfortable telling me. But I am trying to get those external voices in, and I'm not from the area I counsel in. And so I've had a little bit of a barrier on like, even when I hosted a career fair, I had a really hard time like getting people the very first time. And now we're rolling, and I had like 15 people come. But I do want feedback from the community because I want to know how our school looks to the outside and make it better because I think nobody's more invested in the community than the parents or the people who live and work there. So thank you.
And just a suggestion on some of those people that if you want an external person, especially if your school is residential, who lives near your school, which organizations, which church, which businesses are there, because that school is going to be pivotal and they're probably seeing students every day. And a lot of times you can send a letter and say, hey, we're soliciting, we have this new committee and we're looking for someone to volunteer to lead and be in that area. So that's also a suggestion that you could do if you're looking for external, you're not from the area. I remember not being from the area when I was a former school counselor, but we were in a residential area. So some of the neighbors were very much invested, or they're always standing in their yard. And so area churches, area businesses, because our students were going there after school. So that could be supportive as well. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Portia, you're just joining us. What we're doing is we're identifying the team in design thinking and who you've kind of identified to support you and what are some roadblocks you may be facing so we can support in that. And so if you want to kind of think about that. Ms. Tammy, I was going to say, so you are leading it as a school counselor. How is your journey with your administrator adding? Did you have any commitment issues or anything?
Well, we are using our counselors, but since I'm the administrator, it's been great.
Hey, awesome. So you're the administrator.
So I'm the administrator. So she's very cooperative. She's doing a great job.
Yes, you are doing a very awesome job. So yes, that's exactly, I always say that's one of the biggest areas is to get that commitment from the administrator that is going to support. But since you are the administrator, that is one.
I wear a couple different hats in our district. So I'm actually part central office staff too. So it makes it easy sometimes to get compliance, but maybe not so much buy-in.
Well, I will say, as an administrator, how did you go about selecting your educators, like which teachers or which students you were going to have serve?
Really started with those that are doing it already, those that are committed, those that have had some training, those who can be leaders to others, starting with like our teacher leads. We have those in all buildings. So really starting there. And then, like I said, they're teacher leads in their buildings and then across the district, some of them. So they're good to get that message out and provide that support.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments when we look at empathize? Well, yep, the first one. All right. So we're going to move on to define. So based on, if you haven't done your needs assessment, we understand you may not know what the challenges are, but you do have some assumptions. And what have been those assumptions that you have found have been challenges for your students in access? We know access sometimes is to STEM, but are there any other challenges that you've noticed for your students once you've completed a needs assessment, or what you've assessed yourself outside of having access to it? Anybody?
I think time is a barrier a little bit. We've been doing monthly STEM projects, and that's one thing my parents are telling us. Like, I just had one today who was very frustrated because she's like, we're eating up our weekend doing stuff. And we really try to make them fun where it would be an enjoyable family experience, like anything we ask them to do at home. And it's not required. So, like, if you're coming off a night shift and you just can't do it, there's no penalty for it. But I'm running into, like, in my role, I'm seeing that we're having a lot of the same people participate, and I want to see how we can get some of that participation up. Um, and so I'm trying to think of exactly how to word that. Like, if I add that in the inventory, like what would be ways you would be like, we have a blessing box. If I put some of the materials you would need for a project out there, would you be comfortable driving by and getting it? If you don't want me to send it home, I can send home um, posters and stuff. But we're really trying to get, I don't know, that involvement side of things is a little bit tough with scheduling. So, yes, getting the materials, but then also like how to get the time buy-in from people, because we do fit pretty well with our family events because we feed them, but we write a lot of grants to be able to do that. So, for things that they would do independently as a family, and some people aren't super confident with the academic content.
Understood. We did have someone put in, as far as their empathize, being in elementary school, our biggest challenge is getting buy-in from the grade levels on committing to the engineering design process. We are finding it difficult to get teachers trained. For a student, it takes a tremendous amount of time for initial projects, teaching process, expectations, etc. That is totally understandable and very much reasonable. And as you talk about time and you're talking about what's necessary in the training for your teachers, one of the biggest things, if you don't have the access to teachers that are already trained and understand how to incorporate this, is trying to find that place where you can slide it in slowly. That it doesn't transform their whole plan, but it also adds in small components, because we also like to add, as far as a counselor, adding in the SEL piece to what people are already doing. And so having them think not necessarily project based, but what are you doing in the classroom that can be problem solving for a student to help them understand that you were self-aware in this moment. How can you do some team building exercises, especially through when we talk about the ELA lens? What can we do on the computer, taking an assignment from maybe just written to maybe illustrative, but they can only have these 4 or 5 reasonable tools. Here at ETSU, we have a SLICE grant, and I actually work on that team as well. And we work with educators that are in our area. And basically what they do is they come in, and we did a workshop last year, but we have them create a narrative, and they could not pick their group. So number one, we put them in an uncomfortable situation where most times when you let a student pick their team, they're pretty much comfortable talking. They're comfortable problem solving because they've worked with these individuals. But what we did was we had character cards, and we handed out character cards, and you had to go find your tribe. And that is how, and we split them up, and you would be amazed because these were teachers, these were administrators, and they were just like students, because they were like, I am uncomfortable in this group. I don't know them. I thought I was going to get to sit with my people. And so then they had a fairy tale that they had to rewrite. They had to rewrite the fairy tale, but they couldn't just draw it out. They had to draw it, they had to narrate it, they had to also put it on a Google slide, they had to upload it. So you have varying individuals that were like, can we use Canva? Can we use these things? Some people did a whole voiceover. Some individuals took Play-Doh and took foil, tin foil, and made the characters and made all the scenes. But you had a certain amount of time to actually do that. And so that was very interesting. But we took it from an ELA standpoint of taking a fairy tale, but also incorporated some science and some project-based things within in the classroom so that we can help understand. And then the overall thing was to talk about those SEL components of how are you self-aware in this moment? What did it take to be socially aware? What kind of decision making did you have to have, and what did that look like as a team building when you were looking at other people, and what were your responsibilities? And so that can be supportive. It's just trying to help teachers understand, like, it's not don't make it such a new thing, but incorporate it into what you're already doing. What's one thing you can change? Because as you change that one thing, you begin to develop ideas for other things. Hope I made that clear enough. Okay. So as you continue to define those challenges and those problems, find out what would be some of those solutions. So that's what you're going to throw up, and then you begin to ideate, and that's challenging the assumption. So if you're saying, I can't do this, and so whichever is the elementary school that's having a difficult process, like the teachers are saying they can't get trained, how can we challenge that? How can we think wild about what training looks like? How can we think wildly about what implementation looks like? We have teachers to bring a standard. What standard do you want to see that you think could work? And then bring it to other people to challenge, like, what could we do with this standard? And how will we support this standard in the classroom, but also support it through a lens of incorporating this computer science piece or incorporating technology. So sometimes when we're looking at computer science, we look too much as having that computer, but what piece of technology can the student be exposed to? You also have, even if you're a school counselor, when we do careers, ONET, let ONET be your friend, because there are careers out there that students just have no idea. And I learned about some like animal that are actually STEM careers. ONET has a whole section that says STEM, and there are careers that are under that, and you're like, what? So actually having students go, you can assign them one to explore that particular career. That's what we talk about, exposure. So if exposure is your challenge, how will you expose them to those careers? Because you're also going to expose yourself so that they can get away from just the simple narratives of here's what's in our backyard, and what does, like, break down engineering for students. What does that look like? Because there are various sectors to that. Okay. We have another comment that says, I will also add that implementing a Google form is great. It's great as well when it's hard for you to get people together at the same time. Awesome. This will be a good way to jot down ideas to let your group know how you're thinking. This will be running from a running form with live updates, so everyone is on the same page and abreast. That works. It does work. It does work. What else do we have here? Okay, we have some survey responses. A middle school in East Tennessee that did a parent survey. They took a few iPads outside, handed them to parent at car pickup line. Yes. That is very much advocacy. Like, let's do this. You're already in the parent line. You're already waiting. Let's catch them before the end of the school day. Hand them an iPad.
I like that.
I do too. I do too. Another school had a quick survey that when parents came into the office to check out students, they were handed the iPad with the survey pulled up to complete while they waited on their student to report to the office. Yep. So you can find patterns and needs, etc., with short surveys. I like those ideas because I really do love being in that car line, because sometimes your parents are there way early. Like, I've been blocked in at the school before, like they are prepared in the first to be the first 3 cars to drive out. Like, it's 45 minutes before school starts, but they are lining up. They are ready.
We got some that's 2 hours before time. They will sit there.
They are ready. So that
Yes.
is very much interesting to especially when they're out there, you can utilize that time or get one staff member to go out there and help support that on your team to help support that initiative. So remember your team. the biggest thing is you want to put people on your team that think outside the box. You want those creative students. And I always say, don't shy away from your students with discipline issues, because those that get around the box, they know how to think outside of the box. And those are the students you want at least 1 or 2 on your team, so that they can challenge what you think as a streamline. If you're a narrow-minded thinker and you just think straightforward, which one of those students test your buttons and challenge you on out to think outside of what we're actually doing? Because every time we have a rule set in place, or we have something that we think is correct, some of you all, and I've done it too, gone back to your office and started laughing because you was like, oh, that was a gray area I didn't even know. And really, how do we put this into a consequence when actually they didn't really break the rule, but they broke the rule because they found the gray area, they found the loop? So put those students on your team, because a lot of times they can help support this initiative, because it gives them something else to do. And so, yep, Miss Ash, you said, and you've got that good, strong school Wi-Fi to use. Yep, while they're in line using those digital tools there. Yep. And so just helping students understand what's all around them. Okay. Yes, we want teachers to start small. Just do it. Don't make it complicated. No. And I think sometimes teachers, they get too inundated with the idea of what computer science looks like, and not just switching up what the process looks like. All right. Any comments or questions, or Venice, you want to add anything else?
I think that was it. It was just the running form for me, because I know sometimes, depending on the school, the dynamics of the school, is parents, they're just really hard to catch. They work overnight, or they're working 2 jobs. The kids are going to the grandparents' house, and it's just hard to reach them for some reason. And so I just feel like whenever people get time, they can go into their Google Drive and they can just jot down and type in what they're thinking, and that way, the next person who comes in, maybe overnight, in the middle of the night, they see it and they're like, oh, I can add my input. So, because you may never ever get everybody on the team at one time. They can never jump on the Zoom, or they can never come in person in a meeting. And so that Google form, that running form, will always be something that everybody can go back to and just say, hey, we didn't get her on the phone, but hey, she did put these notes in. What do you guys think about this? How can we implement this? This is an issue, or this is a topic. So I think just still having everybody being a part without everybody just being at the table at the same time.
Right. And just be realistic about your timeline. This is not something that flips overnight. It is a process. It is a process. And so what does that look like? Is it weekly meetings or too much? How often do you meet in a month? So really trying to lay it out where it is strategic enough, where it doesn't feel overwhelming to your team, but it also feels like we are getting somewhere. Because one of the biggest things where you lose teams is that we have this momentum, and then it slows down and then it dies out. So you want to make sure that you kind of can keep that stream continuous. And so I like this last one on ID8. It says we have pre-made stream lessons that we will use during summer learning. We encourage the teachers to use these to start. They are already made and materials are gathered. We have even supported support for teachers with a website built by our technology coordinator that guides the teachers through the lessons with PowerPoints, vocabulary, and videos. Awesome. That's awesome. I am the
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, Tammy, thank you. Yes, administrator is putting in basically some things that they have done at their school to support you all. Use what you have. I mean, a lot of times what's accessible, there are so many programs, and I found this out even in my school district, that after school district, what they have access to, and what subscriptions they've bought, and what subscriptions we're not using. Because a lot of times they've signed contracts for more than 1 to 2 years, that because we're not using it right now doesn't mean the contract has gone out. It may be something you can utilize or add to your classroom. And so be sure that you are asking, what is it that we have access to that our students that can support us in the classroom? As if you're a school counselor, there are 2 books. There's not many STEM books for us, but there are lessons that are already created it just tells you exactly what to go get, exactly what supplies to utilize. STEM there's a book for STEM for middle school, STEM for elementary, STEM for high school, and what that looks like, especially paired with social emotional learning. And so there are books out there that you can get your wheels turning, as I say. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
We got one more comment.
Got it.
So they said, love the idea of using already created lessons. You can go to this. They put a website, a URL on here to find a whole searchable database of lessons created by the Tennessee teachers aligned to Tennessee standards who have been participating in PBL workshops.
Yep. Awesome.
That's good stuff. Because we definitely do not want to reinvent the wheel. There's things that's already out there that can be beneficial to what we're doing, but we got to figure out where they are, and they're out there. But I'm a big person on we're not reinventing the wheel.
No.
And it's just extra work that we don't have.
Slow and steady. Slow and steady. Okay. So with that, if you have any more questions for us or your team, just reach out or you can put it in the chat. We're going to move forward. All right, so here we go. So,
Go
there you
ahead.
go.
Go ahead.
This is computer science and SEL. So this is going to be our example that we're going to share with you.
So it feels as if it's only just one more thing to do.
But you know more about this than you think you do. You can do this. So let's consider a hypothetical example where a school counseling team at a secondary school decides to use design thinking to integrate social emotional learning and computer science into their curriculum to better support their students' holistic development. The goal is to prepare students not just academically, but also emotionally and socially for the challenges of the future, leveraging the logical and problem-solving skills inherent in computer science.
And so the counseling team begins by conducting surveys, interviews, observation sessions with students and teachers and parents to understand the current emotional and academic challenges faced by students. So that means that they discover that students feel stressed by traditional academic pressures and that they're also anxious, they have anxiety about things, about their future career prospects, because nowadays when I'm talking to even my students, they're having more anxiety and panic attacks because they're stressed out about what am I going to do? Like my academics is not where they're supposed to be. It's like they having more pressure on themselves than the parents are even putting on them. Like some parents are not even putting any pressure on them, but they're allowing. But I tell them that, we're our worst critics as well, because everybody wants to be like pretty much perfect. And I'm like, you're not going to be perfect, but they're stressing out on just traditional academic pressures, just of what the things that are coming towards them. And we got to be like prepared for that. So particularly in the rapid evolving tech industry. And so with that, we have to just really pretty much prepare them and get them ready for these things. And so you have those kids who are like really, really good in math and in science. And I tell people, some people are like, well, I'm more science than I am math, and I'm more math than I am science. And I said, well, I'm more science than math, but I love STEM stuff. I love computer tech stuff. I love biotechnology, stuff like that. Anything that's kind of incorporating that math and the science. But if you give me just straight math, no. If you give me straight science, yes. But if you kind of integrate them both into it, I'm like, okay, I'm listening. What do you mean? I'm sitting in my seat. So we have to make sure that we are preparing these kids and getting them what they're needing when they're missing some of this stuff, because they're just being stressed out about things that they shouldn't be stressed out about. But that's just life, because they are really their worst critic, and we just got to be there to making sure that they are on the right future career path and giving them whatever that they're needing within this particular realm of computer science, because it goes like Doc was saying, if you go on ONET, they give you it's so many careers out there, but we're so in the box and we're just worried about, well, what about computer science and engineering and all this? But there's so many other things outside of computer science and just engineering. They got biotechnology. They got all these different things. And I didn't even know anything about biotechnology until probably weeks ago, because my son, when he did ONET, it came up biotechnology careers. And I was like, what is biotechnology? Like, what does that even mean? But when we pulled it up, it was over 100 different careers that falls up under that category, which falls up on the STEM, which falls up on the computer science. So really, there's so much more than just the same careers that we normally would kind of talk about when we think about computer science. It's so much more things that are out there for our kids. We just got to make sure that we're providing the resources and giving it to them.
All right. So in step one, we're empathizing. And so as a counseling team, you want to begin by conducting those surveys, those interviews, those observations, the sessions with parents, teachers, anybody external, to understand that current emotional academic challenge. And that's what we just talked about, what you did, what individuals did there. Oops. Okay, it's not giving me my second one. But once you get finished and you've conducted your needs assessment, the biggest thing that you want to do after you've empathized is to understand and go ahead and take that information back to your team so that you can begin to dissect it.
And step two is define. So they're going to based on your findings, the team will define the core problem, which means the students need a way to connect their emotional and social development with practical future-oriented skills like those offered by computer science in a manner that feels relevant and engaging. Because if it's not engaging, if the kids don't feel like it's relevant, they're not going to be drawn to it anyways. So it has to be something that they feel like that they actually can do. It's a reachable goal. It's something that I can see myself doing. So it has to be something that's relevant and engaging for the student.
So we asked what's next. And so when you begin to brainstorm those range of solutions, the team basically settled in this example on an elective course that combines SEL themes with computer science projects, such as developing apps that address community issues or social challenges. Two, they had a mentorship program, pairing students with tech professionals who can share how emotional intelligence has played a role in their career development. And workshops and speaker events focused on intersection of technology, mental health, and social responsibility. These are slow ways that if you don't have anything in place, that you can begin to get things in place. And so the team is like, what are we going to do? One of the biggest things I want you to understand is SEL is EI and what we call EQ. That's your emotional intelligence. And most of us as adults, your teachers, they need SEL too, because it's the same 5 concepts that Castle put out for SEL standards, which is your emotional intelligence. So how much do you know about yourself? So ultimately, the team decided that they're going to go with an elective course that combines SEL themes with that computer science projects for students.
Now, this next one is we're going to talk about is the prototype, the test, and the outcome. And so with the prototype, this is pretty much like the sample, the model that you're creating. It's kind of like when you're getting ready to start something off. So the team decides to start small with a pilot version of the elective course. They create a curriculum outline, talk about the sample projects, and a plan for integrating guest speakers and mentors. And so when we're doing this, you want to get somebody who is working in the field so that when they come to be a guest speaker and a mentor towards the kids, these are people that the kids are interested in these particular careers, but these are people who are actually physically working in these areas that the kids are asking about. And so this also outline a series of workshops to run alongside of the course, which would be open to all students. And so for this, I think some good things would be if you're having issues with maybe getting field trips or having been approved where the kids can't go off campus for whatever reason, for maybe for budget, or it's the money where they can't get buses to go on field trips. And so I think some things that you can do online where they can kind of integrate real life situations. And so when the kids are doing it, you can find something online where they can physically do something or watch a video, or maybe have the speaker to come in via Zoom or Teams or something to talk to the kids. Or if they can go out to the area of where they're actually physically working in, to go into these labs or go into these places, go into some of the schools where the kids are about to graduate and talk to those kids. So I think a lot of that stuff you can kind of brainstorm and trying to think outside of the box when you're talking about the prototype. And so the test would be the elective is offered to a small group of students, and the feedback is collected through the semester for from students, parents, and teachers. And it's just to see how things are going. How did it go? What can be done better? And so the observations focus on student engagement. Are they engaged in this? Is it really keeping their mind on what they're doing? Is it something that I'm focused on? The impact of students' understanding of computer science and the SEL, and any observable changes in the students' emotional and social skills. So are they getting excited about it? Are they kind of drawn back from it? Like, I didn't really think this is really what I thought it was going to be. I'm really not interested into it. So you want to kind of test it with a small group of kids to kind of see how it goes over with them. And then C will be the outcome. The feedback reveals that students who participate in the elective feel more confident in their problem-solving abilities and more optimistic about their future career goals or their career paths. So they also report feeling more confident, connected to their peers, and more competent in managing stress and collaborating effectively. Teachers and parents notice an increase in students' resilience and enthusiasm for learning about technology. So the outcome would just basically be the feedback that the students receive about participating in whatever the prototype and the test that you had. Like, how did they feel? Are they more confident in doing it? Are they more drawn back? Did they have more excitement because of this particular thing for this particular prototype? Or is it kind of like, I really liked it? So you really just kind of get an overview of how it all went. How did the prototype do? How did the test do? And then your outcome is like, what did we find? What was the findings from the prototype and the test that the students had?
All right, so we're at that point. Let's implement it. So based on that feedback, the counseling team plans to refine that elective course, expanding it to include more hands-on computer science projects directly tied to SEL outcomes. They also decided to implement the mentorship program more broadly, so matching more students with more professionals in the tech industry. So someone said that they didn't have a lot of students. It was only a certain amount of students that they had. So even if the other students, you don't know if you have the kits or the means, how can you put another program, maybe that is mentorship, or maybe you have them fill out a survey of explore ONET one day and then see, okay, these are the fields that are in our area. Please name the top one that you want to see, and then you work to get that individual in your school to talk or give a presentation, or sometimes mentor the students that are in that area if they're interested. So finally, when we talk about prototype, we're back to where we just getting into everything. And that was just simply our example. But when we prototype, this is crucial. And I want you to understand that this is that thinking big, starting small, starting as a process. Because in this prototyping phase, you just want to produce that scaled down version of the product to investigate your problem. So if you think that just like with the example, if you think that you want to do a class, you think you want to do a mentorship program, would you really open that to your whole school? Would you select a certain grade level that okay, this grade level can give me some meaningful feedback because this is the grade level that I'm trying to target? And one of the things I always say is that we got to remember to scale up. Sometimes we have these career ideas that come, we have career exploration in 8th grade. And we do all these wonderful career days at the younger levels, but how do we tie their social emotional learning, but also how do we tie helping them learn about careers they may not know about to expand even our younger students? And so do a prototype of that model. It has to be something that's tangible or something that they can do, something that they can see. And how will you implement that? I remember when some of the schools were doing STEM designations, they only started with 1 grade having a STEM course. What did that look like? And then how do we expand it? How much money is it going to take to get another 3D machine? We only have enough 3D materials to support this one group of students. And so keeping that in mind when you prototype something is not necessarily just having something and building. It's more so thinking of the concept. How will we put this concept into place? How will this sketch and this model come off and do these and give us a mock example of what it is that we're needing to do? So we want to make sure that we're communicating. We want to make sure that we're testing, but we're also validating. Is it reliable? Is it something that we're going to put out here? And what happens if we need to pivot? We need to prepare for that. And so when you start with a small group, it's easier to pivot with a small group than having a plan, rolling it all out, and then deciding, oh, this doesn't work, and now we have a mess. So always try to start small and start with the people that you know, okay, if I need to pivot, they're okay with being flexible. For prototyping stage, you must be flexible. And remember to keep a feedback loop. There's also, we have we call it like that concrete feedback where you put it out and people just give you feedback. But what does a feedback loop look like? It's just continuous information, and it's an ongoing process that someone can talk about the design. They can talk about how they test it, the feedback, and how the iteration of your idea. The goal is to learn and improve with each cycle of tests and feedback that you get, okay? And so, like I say, scope and scale is going to be, so what is your scope and how big is your scale going to be? Are you going to roll it out to 2 grades? You have the means to do 2 grades. Is that going to be too much for your team? And then how engaging will the users or the students be? Like we say, prototyping or doing that is essential. So that's just your example, because it's the stage where the rubber meets the road. In design thinking process, it transforms those abstract ideas from the paper to concrete solutions that can be tested, refined, and eventually implemented.
So the design thinking is just a test. And so I talked about a little bit about this, but this is like the evaluation of effectiveness, usability, and the overall impact of the design solution. So this is you testing it out to see how well it's doing. What does it look like? You're going to put your prototype to use and you're going to say, well, was it worth it? How well did they do? How well did they adapt to this? How well did they adjust? Do we need to take anything out? What do we need to edit on it? Do we need to add anything to it? So put your prototype in the user's, which is the student's hand, teach the curriculum, and create the group activity. And so you're basically just designing this this overall to see how impactful it really was with the students. Is it something that we should go down a level with, like a lower grade level, or do we feel like we can create another group because this group went so well? So this is just the testing phase to see how well this actually did with and how effective it was with the group that you had. Doc, you're mute.
So I said, remember your TSIN hubs. And so whichever region that you're in, you have a TSIN hub that is closer to you. Explore them, call them. If you can't get to them, and see if they can support you. I think I told y'all once before, a lot of times they'll have flyers for other places that are doing activities that your students can be involved in that are external to what you're doing that you could potentially partner with and talk about your needs in your school, and they may be willing to support as they continue to prototype and test things that they have out there for students and families as well. And
all right, do you guys, oh, go ahead.
You go ahead. You got it.
Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about anything? Is there anything that you feel like you need to add or talk about? I do want to add on that slide where Doc was talking about let's implement and was talking about the hands-on computer science projects. I also want to say if you're in the Memphis area, they do have the local libraries. They do have STEM kits that you can check out for like a classroom. So if you wanted to do that, I know that they have those, and I'm not sure if any other local libraries in you guys' area, depending on where you are, have those. But I know in Memphis and the surrounding areas, the local libraries, they do have those where you can check those out, and the Pink Palace does too. Any questions, guys? Don't be shy. Okay. You're muted again. Stop.
I keep doing that. I'm sorry. So if you if you need anything else from us, we're here to support. Just give us, just contact us. Our emails are there listed below. Even if you would just want to throw out some ideas and have us just kind of think through it with you, that is what we're here for. Anything you want to say, Bernice?
That is it. I appreciate you guys taking out your time with this week, with Thanksgiving break almost being there. And if you're like some of your students that you teach or counsel, we have not having senioritis, but Thanksgiving-itis, if that's not even a word, but you catch my drift. And so you're just a little bit tired. You just need a little relax and relaxation going on right now. And so I know that you guys have that going on, and we leading up into that Thanksgiving break. So I do appreciate you taking out the time, because an hour is a lot when you're almost at the finish line of a break. So we definitely appreciate you guys.
And ladies, I hope you can see in the chat, you've got a couple requests for the needs assessment that you talked about in the last workshop.
Yes.
If one of y'all will share that with me, I will send it out to everybody who attended, and I'll put it in the folder for the others. So when they watch the recording, they can access it.
Gotcha. We'll get that to you all right after this. I will send it to you.
Awesome.
Don't have nothing else. We're gonna let you reclaim the rest of your time. And you all
Thank you all so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. And you guys have their emails, so you can reach out to them as you start implementing these things, and let them know. I know they'd like to know how they go as you start to work on them with your teachers and your school. And yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Lewis and Ms. Jones, for sharing your expertise. You guys, I don't want to call you old, but you're the goats of counseling, of STEM counseling. I mean, the way you put design thinking into, approaching students with SEL issues. And I mean, it's just, yeah, schools going through designation need to watch the counselor series.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Have a great break.
Thank you. You too, Ms. Evans.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.